BMI Calculator project. The project is a Python-based BMI calculator that allows the user to enter their height and weight and then calculates their body mass index or BMI. The main purpose of the project is to make calculating BMI simple and interactive. One feature I added is the ability to enter height in either meters or centimeters. If centimeters are selected, the program automatically converts the value into meters before performing the calculation. I also added input validation, which prevents values such as 0 or negative numbers from being used for height and weight. Another feature is the ability to compare their current BMI with the previous BMI. The program tells the user whether their BMI increased, decreased, or stayed the same. The main technology used for this project is Python. I also used Python's time module to add short delays in certain parts of the program to make the program more interactive. The time module is placed at the beginning of the code so it can be used throughout. The main goal of this project was to practice programming concepts such as variables, user inputs, conditionals, statements, loops, calculations, type conversion, and input validation. So now I'll explain how the program works from beginning to end. When the program starts, it imports the time module and creates two variables. The first is calculations equal to 0. This variable keeps track of how many BMI calculations have been completed. So after one full cycle, this will increase by 1. This variable is the second one. Last BMI equals to none. So this one stores the previous BMI result. It starts as none because there isn't a previous result when the program first starts. The calculator itself, it's inside a while true loop. This allows the user to enter multiple calculations without restarting the entire program. First, the program asks the user whether they want to enter their height in meters or centimeters. The user can enter 1 or 2. The program then uses the validation loop to make sure the user has entered one of the two options. If they enter something else, the program displays an invalid input message and then asks again. After a valid unit has been selected, the program asks for the user's height. If the user selected meters, their height is used directly. And if the user selected centimeters, the program divides the height by 100 to convert it into meters. For example, if the user enters 180 centimeters, the program converts this into 1.8 meters. The program then checks whether the height is greater than 0. If the user enters 0 or a negative number, the program asks and then displays invalid input and asks for the height again. And after that, the program asks for the user's weight in kilograms. The weight is also checked to make sure it's greater than 0. Once the program has a valid height and weight, it calculates the BMI. First, it calculates the height squared. That's the code right here. Height squared equals to height times height. Then it calculates the BMI by dividing the weight with the height squared and rounds the result into one decimal place. So weight divided by height squared, and then adds the result to one decimal place, rounds it to one decimal. The program then displays the BMI. After that, it checks whether there's a previous BMI. If there is one, the program compares the current BMI with the previous BMI, shown in this entire block of code here. Keeps going. If the BMI is higher, it displays BMI increased. And if it is lower, it displays BMI decreased. If they are the same, it displays no change, as there hasn't been any change. And if it's the first calculation, the program instead displays no previous BMI to compare yet. The program then determines the BMI category. If the BMI is below 18.5, it displays underweight and also gives a little comment. If it is below 25, it displays healthy weight, shows the category and also shows a little comment here. Same with the overweight and in the overweight comment right here. After this, the calculation counter increases by 1, and the current BMI is saved as the new last BMI. Finally, the program asks the user if they want to restart the calculator. If the user enters no, the break statement stops the loop and ends the program. Otherwise, the calculator starts another calculation. So the overall workflow is choose unit, enter height, validate height, enter weight, validate weight, calculate BMI, compare previous BMI, determine category, count calculation, restart or stop. Now I'll demonstrate the program. So I'll start it. The program starts by displaying the BMI calculator and it asking me whether I want to enter my height in meters or centimeters. I'll choose centimeters by entering 2. Now it asks for my height in meters and I'll enter 180. It says it in centimeters, and I choose to enter 180. The program converts the 180 into 1.8 meters internally, so it's nothing we can see. And now it asks for my weight, and I choose to enter 70 centimeters. The program now calculates the BMI. The calculation is 70 divided by 1.8 squared, which gives approximately 21.6, shown right here. As you can see, the program displays a BMI of 21.6. Because this is the first calculation, it says that there is no previous BMI to compare yet. It then displays the BMI category. Since 21.6 is below 25 and above 18.5, the program puts it in the healthy weight category. The program also says that the BMI has been calculated 1 time. Now I'll demonstrate the previous BMI feature. I'll restart the calculator and enter the same height again. Okay, I'll choose centimeters. I'll enter 180 and I'll enter 75. The new BMI is approximately 23.1. This time, the program also displays the previous BMI, which was 21.6. Since 23.1 is higher than 21.6, the program displays BMI increased. The calculation counter has also increased to 2. This shows that the program can remember information from the previous calculation and use it in the new one. I'll also demonstrate the valid input validation. If I enter something other than 1 or 2, when selecting the height unit, the program doesn't continue. For example, if I enter 3, the program displays invalid input, shown here, after entering 3. The height and weight also have validation, but I'll need to restart this because of how crowded it was. So if I enter 0 or a negative number, the program tells me the input is valid and asks me to enter the value again. So the main features demonstrated here are the unit selections, centimeters conversions, BMI calculation, BMI categories, previous BMI comparison, calculation counter, restart function, and input validation. Now I'll go through the most important parts of the code. I won't explain every single line, but I'll focus on the main logic behind the program. At the beginning, the program has import time. This imports the time module, which is used for the time.sleep commands throughout the program. Next are calculations equal to 0 and last BMI equals to none. The first variable counts the number of calculations, while the second one stores the previous BMI. The main calculator is inside the while true loop. Somewhere here. Okay, this is what allows the program to keep running and perform multiple calculations. One important section is the validation of user height. The program uses while unit is not equal to 1 and unit is not equal to 2. After a valid input is selected, the program converts the input into an integer using unit equals to int, integer, unit. If the user selected meters, the height is entered directly. If the user selected centimeters, the program uses height equals to height divided by 100. They convert the value into meters. While the height is less than 0 or equal to 0, this prevents 0 or negative numbers from being accepted. The weight has a similar validation while 0 is greater than weight. Once the BMI values are valid, the program calculates the BMI. First, h2 equals to height times height. This calculates the height squared. Then BMI equals to float rounded to weight divided by height squared to 1 decimal. And then rounds up to 1 decimal. This calculates the BMI and rounds it to 1 decimal. And another important section is the previous BMI comparison. The program checks if last BMI is not none. If previous BMI exists, the program compares it with the new BMI. It then determines whether the BMI increased, decreased, or stayed the same. The BMI category is handled using if, elif, and else statements. The program checks whether the BMI is below 18.5, below 25, or above that range. At the end, the computer increases the calculation counter with calculations plus equals to 1 and stores the current BMI using the last BMI equals to BMI. Finally, it asks the user whether they want to restart. If the user enters no, this condition is triggered. If continue.lower equals to no, break statement. The .lower converts the user answer into lowercase, which means input such as no or no with a large capital letters will also be recognized. Then the program uses the break to exit the main loop and end the calculation. While learning this project, I learned how to combine different Python concepts to create a complete working program. I practiced using variables, user inputs, loops, conditional statements, calculations, type conversion, and input validation. One thing I learned was how to make the program remember information from a previous calculation. I did this using a last BMI variable. I also learned how important input validation is. Without it, the user could enter values such as 0 or negative numbers which could break the calculation. Another thing I practiced was unit conversion. Since the calculation uses height in meters, I needed to convert the centimeters into meters when the user selected that option. If I continued improving this project, I could add more features such as storing multiple previous BMIs, adding more categories, or creating a more advanced interface. Overall, this project helped me become more comfortable with Python and taught me how different programming concepts can work together in one application. The final result is a BMI calculator that can accept different height units, validate input, calculate and categorize BMIs, compare it with the previous result, count calculations, and allows the user to restart the calculator. Thank you so much for watching.